here from Rain Country Homestead. God is good all the time. Well, I'm finally getting to part 3 of my Pharma Free series, and I apologize it's taken me so long, but some of it's been time issue and a lot of other videos we've been working on, and also needing to go back and listen to the videos I've already put out. So if you haven't seen those two, I'm going to go ahead and say to make sure you go back and watch those two. Preferably, I know in my last video I said, you know, no need to watch them in sequence, but I'm going to go ahead and say watch them in sequence. And here's what I think is going to happen. I'm trying to be careful not to be too repetitive, but I think there's certain things that a person can't say enough. And so I'll be going over some of the same things in those previous videos, just kind of breezing through them. But I still want you to go listen to those if you're one that's looking how to get off, specifically thyroid medications, because that's what we did. But we got ourselves off all medications. You know, thyroid was the only prescription medication we were on, and we were on it for 15 years. But, you know, we'd been taking lots of well, not lots, but, you know, probably maybe standard or less than standard what the average American takes, you know, the painkillers and stuff. And so I want you to go watch those and kind of listen to our little journey on that. And today what I'm going to focus more on is I've got a list that I had started years ago when I first took us off the medication, the thyroid medication in particular. So I'm going to go over this list. And I know there's a lot more I could probably add to this list, but this list is in 3 parts. And I added to it through the years. And what I have here to start off with is thyroid boosting foods. Now, in a previous video, I did talk about when you first start taking yourself off thyroid medication, the importance that I believe it's important that for a time to get some supplements and add those supplements to your diet as you learn how to incorporate these particular foods that I'm going to list off to you into your diet on a regular basis. And those supplements would be selenium, iodine, tyrosine, L-tyrosine, it's amino acid, and making sure you're getting a good B complex. Complex is very important. Don't be taking those B's by themselves. Take a good full complex. They need to be taken together. And I know I listed off some more, so I can go back and watch those. And that's how we started while I added some changes to our diet. Now, we've always been pretty healthy eaters, but a lot of times you can think you're healthy if you're just going by what the book says or by what this says or that says. But you may find out there's a lot of things you thought were healthy that were not healthy, or things that really are healthy but at this time may need to be cut from your diet for a period of time until you can get things stabilized. This should just be a given that anything I list here should be non-GMO and organic, as much as you can possibly get. I know not everything you can get organic in your area or it's easy to come by, but do your best. And remember to look up the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen. And that does change on a yearly basis, so look that list up every year and double check. And if you don't know what that means, I'll try to talk about that in another video. So what I have here is ginger, turmeric, most varieties of fish, wild caught, shellfish, if you're one that is not, that doesn't have a problem eating crustaceans, lobster, crab, and shrimp. But again, this is a list. You're going to have to tailor it to suit your dietary needs. These are just things that you should consider adding. Seeds such as flax, poppy, chia, hemp, sunflower, and fennel. Eggs, whole eggs, you need those egg yolks, people. Don't believe that hype about well, it's not so much a hype anymore like it used to be about egg yolks being bad for you. That's where all the good stuff is. That's where all the selenium is. So a lot of the stuff that I'm listing off is high in these things, like your D3 and your selenium and all this kind of stuff, and your iodine. Nuts such as almonds, Brazil nuts in particular, are very high in selenium. You can eat a couple of Brazil nuts a day and have your daily allowance, necessary allowance for selenium. And cashews is another real good one. So I'm going to keep stopping here because I got to say this stuff while I'm thinking of it. Getting your nutrients in whole food form is so much better than taking it in supplement form. Again, I agree and believe in taking supplements if you can't get these foods, or for whatever reason, or to get yourself on the road to better health, to get started. But once you start switching to your whole foods, this is the best way to do it. So another thing, nutritional yeast. Some people don't like it. It has kind of a Parmesan cheese type flavor if you haven't tried it. I love nutritional yeast. I add it to I try to eat a half an avocado or a whole avocado, depending on the size, every single day. And I like to put nutritional yeast and my homemade seasoned salt on that. Really good that way, and some red pepper. Bananas, coconut in all forms. So that includes the coconut oil and the homemade coconut milk, not that store-bought coconut milk. You need to get away from the store-bought nut milks unless you know for positive sure they're entirely organic and they do not have ingredients like carrageenan. And if I'm pronouncing that correctly, because that's not even a food. You should not be ingesting carrageenan. It's very hard on your gut. So avocados is one of them. Lots and lots of healthy fats are incredibly important, and avocado is one of your top healthy fats, as well as your coconut oil. Olive oil, make sure it's not overheated olive oil because it will go rancid. You want a good healthy olive oil. Hemp seed oil, chicken and turkey, again organic, raised naturally. Grass-fed beef, sea vegetables, so any sea vegetables. Look at your I can't even remember the name of it now. I think it starts with an N, Nori. And it's commonly used for wrapping sushi in like California rolls, which I love California rolls. But what I'll do with like a Nori wrap is I'll take like a ricotta cheese, homemade ricotta cheese is so good, or cream cheese or something, and I will put my spices and whatever in there and spread it on a Nori wrap and roll it up and eat it kind of like a burrito. It's really good, and you're getting that iodine and all that. So the sea vegetables are incredibly important. Other good sea vegetables I don't have listed here are Chlorella and Spirulina. So look into those. If it's something like kelp, kelp is good, of course. And you can't find a way to incorporate it into your foods that you like the taste of, you can always make your own homemade supplements where you're actually still getting that whole food source, but buy it in a good organic powdered form and then get those non-GMO capsules that I mentioned in other videos. So you can look right up here and find a video on me making my own homemade capsules, and I will try to link to the capsules below that I use to make my own vitamin supplements or herbal supplements. So that's really important. Beans and lentils. So if you're a hardcore, what do they call it? The caveman diet, whatever that, paleo diet, and you have low thyroid, you may want to reconsider that diet. And some of it will be applicable, but you got to get your good beans and lentils in there. Make sure you sprout them, soak them, all that kind of stuff. So, and you can find information on that right up here, at least a little bit. And I will link to other videos in that video that by other people that you can go check out. So leafy greens. So that's going to be your dark leafy greens. Get the dandelion leaves and the stinging nettle and all that. Find ways to add that to your diet. Strawberry leaves and all that. I'll go over some more of that later because I'm going to get to that. But also your kale, preferably cooked when you're starting out. Anything that's cruciferous, you're going to want to cook it when you're first starting out on getting your thyroid back to where it should be. Let's see, citrus of all kinds, you know, grapefruit, oranges, lemons, and eat them as fresh as you can get them. So good for you, and learn how to use those peels. I don't use grapefruit peel. I've wanted to, but it's just too bitter. But like orange peel and lemon peel, I use a lot. As you've seen in other videos, I dehydrate them and then I add them to all kinds of stuff, including my morning latte. Let's see, carrots, squash, all kinds of squash, celery. These are vegetables and fruits that are specifically good. And I'm not saying avoid all the other fruits and vegetables, but these are ones that are specifically good for helping to boost your thyroid. Fresh herbs like basil, oregano, mints, thyme, rosemary, dandelion, and stinging nettle. So we got that in there. So learn how to add, you know, eat them fresh as you know, as much as you can, or dehydrated. You can add them to all your meals. So I try to get all this stuff, you know, like I make teas and then add all this great stuff to my, to as many meals as possible. And that includes my mixed greens, which has the dandelion leaves and the stinging nettle and the strawberry leaves and the grape leaves and the kale and radicchio and carrot tops, beet greens, what else? Rutabaga greens, borage, all of it. I get it. I just dehydrate it all because you're always going to get lots and lots of that stuff. So all through the spring and summer, I'm dehydrating that stuff and then making mixed greens, and I just put handfuls of that into everything I can, soups and stews and casseroles and gravies and so on and so forth. And if you've been watching me for a long period of time, you'll see me do that a lot in a lot of my cooking videos. So and I'll put a link to like a playlist of my cooking videos so you can see some of that. And ashwagandha, I just added in. Ashwagandha is a really good one. I don't know that it's specifically for boosting your thyroid. However, it is a powerful adaptogen that you should look into adding to your diet. Now, I didn't put maca root because that's one I would say, at least in the beginning, avoid it for a while. Unless it's gelatinized, I think is how you say it, or heated, cooked to some degree, because it is actually considered a cruciferous, I believe. So, but I use maca root in my homemade, you know, jet-fueled latte recipe, which you can find up here too. So, and I will be growing that this year, trying to. So I'm hoping it works in my area. I think it will, because usually those more Asian type herbs, they tend to grow well in our area. So now I'm going to go over a list of things that you want to cut back on. And that is, and I've mentioned this in previous video, and these are to cut back on, but you don't necessarily have to cut them out completely. Just learn to extreme, maybe not extreme moderation, but moderation is really important. And that is going to be things like your carb, you know, sugars of any kind. So don't get too much fruit. Citrus is usually pretty safe, but don't get too much fruit into your diet, especially when you're starting out. Focus more on your vegetables and your meats and your healthy fats. So, and then try to stay away from breads as much as possible. I mean, a little bit here and there is fine, or cut it out completely. It's going to depend on what you need to do for your diet. Some people are going completely grain-free, and that's a good way to get started. I don't think that's necessarily something you have to stick to for a lifetime, but I do recommend it for getting started, especially if you're looking at weight loss as well. And so you're going to increase your amount of healthy fats that I mentioned earlier, the avocado, you know, whether it be the whole fruit or the avocado oils, the coconut oils, and the nuts and the seeds, and grass-fed butter. Got to get that grass-fed butter. I can't believe, is that not even on my list? Did I not put that? I cannot believe that's not in here. Grass-fed butter. You must get that in your diet. Get away from margarine, which I'm getting to, because anyway, let me finish this very short list of what you should cut back on. So I said carbs, and then gluten. I would really say go for a time avoiding gluten all the way for a while, because in most cases, and I've said this in so many videos, like my last live show, and I believe I said it in my previous videos in this series, that I believe most people with hypothyroidism, it's coming from a gut disorder that is caused from just your gut has been torn up, and it's not necessarily caused from the gluten, but the gluten is making it worse. I believe the gut issues are caused from too much exposure to too many antibiotics, GMOs, prescription and over-the-counter medications. All this stuff is taking a toll on our gut health, so we don't have healthy gut flora. That means we can't properly digest things like gluten and stuff like that. And so while you're healing your gut, it is important to cut back or cut out the gluten, depending on how bad your situation is. So again, a lot of this is also causing the candida overgrowth. You know, too much sugar is also feeding to the candida overgrowth. So that's why I say you've got to cut back on your sugar, even in its healthy forms like honey and coconut sugar and molasses and whole fruits. You know, still want to get your fruits in your diet, but cut back on the amount of whole organic fruits for a time. Okay, this is just me and what I did. All right, so just take that into consideration. And now before I continue, and I forgot to say this at the very beginning, I really recommend that you find a good naturopathic doctor. Now I didn't, because we don't have any in our area. The closest we have it's just too far of a drive for me to keep going and visiting. So I did all my studying and research online. So I started with Dr. McCullough. Now Dr. McCullough is great, but he isn't sold on the fact that you can get off your thyroid medication if you've been on it for 10 years or more. Well, we were on it for 15 years. So I'm here as a testimony that it can be done. Now, he didn't say it couldn't. He just didn't have any proof on that. He wasn't sure. So, but he does have a lot of good information about thyroid and getting off of it. But there are more doctors out there. Look into Dr. Josh Axe. And in particular, in this case, I say Dr. John Bergman. He's on YouTube. He has a great channel, and he talks a lot about adrenal issues and thyroid issues. And I say this all the time. I wish I would have found him before I took this, because I think it would have saved me some of the hardships that I went through along the way, which I'll get into later. So now, here's what you need to avoid completely. Cut it out, stop it altogether. Though I believe you don't have to cut coffee out completely, some of you may want to consider getting away from it completely, again, at least for a time. I drink very, very little coffee. It's usually just a tiny bit, and it's never daily. Now, I put that in the what to cut back on, but for some of you, you may want to avoid it completely. Even no matter how organic and healthy that coffee is. There's lots of good healthy things in organic coffee, but in this situation, it may be something you need to avoid completely. So, and definitely completely, GMOs, anything that is genetically modified, it needs to be removed from your diet. Get away from it. If you're buying corn products and it doesn't say non-GMO, you need to not buy it. Stay away from corn products. That's why I didn't have a problem with Mr. Rain destroying several cans of those old cans of corn, and that's why they're old, because we don't eat that stuff. Soy products of all kind, maybe if they're fermented, I would suggest looking into that more, like some soy sauces. Now, Bragg's makes a good liquid aminos, but it's made from a soy product that hasn't been fermented. So though it's organic and it's non-GMO, it's still a soy product, and so to me the jury's still out on that one. Now then you can go to a other brand name that's fermented, but then it's going to have a lot of MSG in it, and you need to avoid the MSG. So that's another, cut the MSG out, cut out the high fructose corn syrups. Avoid fluoride at all costs. That includes in your toothpaste. Read the back of your toothpaste label. If you're buying store-bought toothpaste that has fluoride in it, read it. Just read what it says and read how much toothpaste you're actually supposed to be using. Don't look at what they show you in the commercial. You're only supposed to be using a teeny tiny bit, and it says harmful. Even that teeny tiny bit is harmful as swallowed, and it's because of the fluoride content. So avoid it at all costs. So if you are on city water like we are that fluoridates, you should stop consuming that fluoridated water. This also means Teflon pans. If you're using Teflon pans, throw them out. I don't care how new they are. I had a really nice, beautiful, big Teflon pan that was just, it was great for doing when I want to do a big batch of stir-fried, chicken fried rice or something. I had to throw it out. Because Teflon, the FLO in that stands for fluoride. It's or fluorine. It is one of the most toxic ingredients or toxic chemicals on the periodic table. Look it up. You should not be ingesting fluoride in any form. So throw out your Teflon pans and switch to stainless steel or cast iron. And fluoride is proven, by the way, to be a thyroid inhibitor. And the cumulative effect on the thyroid gland is very detrimental. So it builds and builds and builds, in other words. So the more exposure you get to the fluoride, the more it's accumulating in your system and having a detrimental effect on your thyroid gland and many other glands throughout the body. So even if you don't have hypothyroidism, get away from the fluoride. It is bad, bad news. All right. Even a lot of dentists now are starting to wake up and realize the truth and doing the research for themselves and going, wow, I need to stop telling my patients to use fluoridated toothpaste and do the fluoride treatments and all that nonsense. All right, that's why we make our own tooth powder. You can find a video to that up here. If I can fit all that up here, I'll put it up here. Otherwise, I'll just put playlists that have all this stuff in it. One thing you're gonna wanna cut out for a time, and I said this in another video, is your raw cruciferous vegetables. Yes, get your cruciferous vegetables in your diet, but please make sure they are steamed or cooked in some way because of the goitrogens. The goitrogens are going to slow down thyroid production, and that includes, sadly, even when you ferment them. Fermenting the vegetables actually increases the goitrogens in it. So I actually eat all this stuff raw and fermented now. But I did have to cut way back on this stuff for a time. And I still try not to do it too much, to eat this stuff too much raw. But I love kimchi. So if you don't know what some of the cruciferous vegetables would be, that would be broccoli, kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, and so on. So just again, for a period of time, just avoiding them raw. But you still want to get them in your diet as much as possible. Just make sure you cook them. Next on my list is any kind of fake fats. Margarine and shortening, like, the name brand shortenings or even the store brand name shortenings. You got to avoid those things. Those things are bad for you. Any other kind of like vegetable oil that I didn't say was good for you, if it's, just your standard vegetable oil, corn oil, all those things you need to get away from. Canola oil is probably one of the worst. I don't care what they've said about it. Get away from canola oil. I know it's the cheaper, quote unquote, healthy oil, but it's not healthy at all. Canola comes from rapeseed, which is toxic. You need to avoid it. So make sure, again, you're switching to real butter, lard if you can have it, a good healthy lard, and coconut oil, avocado oil. There's some other good ones out there that I'm forgetting. Grapeseed oil, and look them up, hemp seed oil. These are good ones. And I know I said them before, but I'm just saying it again because these things need to be reminded. And I will copy and paste this whole list in the description box below so you don't have to go back and keep listening to this. Fake sugars of any kind, absolutely not. Remove those entirely. Even if you're a diabetic, get those things out of your diet. They are so incredibly toxic. I don't care what brand name they're under. I don't care if they call them natural or not. Remember, natural is a name they can call if they got it. Natural can mean anything. You know, what comes out of the back end of an animal is natural. Do you want to eat it? Do you want to consume it? Now, a lot of times when they're putting natural stuff in your foods and they're calling it natural, it's actually coming from things that you would find pretty detestable. So don't just go by a label. Certain fake sugars are made from natural things, quote unquote, like things that, like bacteria that has been radiated, and then the excretions it makes, that's where they get aspartame. Okay, radiated bacterial secretions, gross, okay, and highly toxic. So processed sugars. So even when you are going to use sweeteners, though I say at least in the beginning, you may want to cut completely back for a time. The healthy sugars you should be looking at, if it's white, don't use it. Especially if it just says white sugar, that means it's made from genetically modified sugar beets, which is the worst, absolute worst. Switch to sugars like coconut sugar, and again, organic, non-GMO, date sugar, raw honey, and or at least, this isn't the best one, but at least organic evaporated cane sugar juice, which I do tend to use a lot for certain recipes, though I try to use the coconut sugars and stuff like that more. Sometimes if you need more of a white sugar, the best to go with is going to be your evaporated cane sugar, non-GMO juice. And it's organic too. So, you know, as far as a white-ish sugar, it's not white, it's still blonde color because it still has the molasses in it. And I forgot to put molasses in here. That's another good one. Look for the unsulfured molasses. You want it to have as many good healthy minerals in it as possible. And there's many other things you can look into. And another absolute needs to be eliminated from your diet is highly processed, prepackaged foods, okay? You're gonna have to start learning how to cook from scratch if you don't know how to already. You need to get on the bandwagon, and if there's still stuff that you're using, even seasoned packages, okay? Sometimes it still surprises me people buy taco mixes and stuff like that when it's so easy to make your own. I don't know, I don't think I've ever bought those. I just know what seasonings are good for tacos, you know, like cumin and some paprika and obviously salt and red pepper and chili powder. You know, getting all the good organic stuff. You just mix it together to suit your taste. It's not that hard to do. As long as you stock up on all these good herbs and spices, you can do it yourself. It's super easy. Okay, you don't need to buy the seasoned packets. They're usually just full of MSG and other garbage. All right, so there's my list, and I'm sure that this is probably already really long, and so now I'm probably not going to get to sewing. But again, I am not a doctor, okay? So you need to look into this stuff for yourselves. I'm sharing with you the things that you can do to help get you on the path to proper health, to get yourself off the medications, in this video in particular, about getting off of thyroid medications. But please do not just take yourself off because you heard what I said. Find a good naturopathic doctor and look and do some more research on your own, because what works for you, for me, may not work. You know, all these things may have worked for me, but you're going to want to make, and I think most of them are going to work for you, but you're going to want to make some little adjustments to suit you and your need and your body. So you have to, and that's the other thing, listen to your body. It will tell you. If you're doing some of this stuff, like say you're taking some iodine and you're like, I don't feel right, stop taking it. You may need to take it in another form, or you may be already getting too much or something. So just listen to your body, you will know. And that's what I've done along the way. I almost forgot one more incredibly important thing. Okay, this is just as important as cutting out the alcohol and some of this other stuff, if not more so. If you're living a sedentary lifestyle, you need to add movement. Okay, you need to start exercising. You need to get out there and do something, okay? If you're in a situation where it's hard for you, maybe you're even disabled and you can't go out and walk or run, or I don't really recommend running. I don't personally think it's the healthiest thing for your body. Walking is. But there's always, even if you're in a wheelchair, there's usually something you can do to move more. Moving your arms, okay, and whatever it is. And depending on your health situation, you can find some sort, I don't want to be too general because you don't want to pigeonhole anyone here. But I believe everybody can find some sort of movement they can do to help keep that blood pumping through their system. And if you're totally out of shape, you got to start small. Now, I taught dance and martial arts. I taught dance here for 27 years and then martial arts for like 7 or 8. And I've recently pretty much retired from all that stuff, but business was slowing down and slowing down and slowing down, and I wasn't teaching as many classes. But through that time, I was still doing regular exercises on my own daily, plus adding more things like, running a treadle machine. It's a workout for the legs and the lower back. It's great. I love it. And even the lower abs. I can feel all these muscles from here on down working, and it's great. So I'm doing that. And I'm grinding flour by hand almost every day. Working in the garden. I'm hauling jugs of water back and forth. I'm bringing firewood, up and down. I'm constantly moving all the time. And so what I realized is that here's the other thing. You can overwork yourself too. Because I went through a period where I was doing too much exercise. I was teaching dance and trying to do all this stuff and doing other exercises on top of it. And it was too much, and that can be detrimental. So you got to find that balance. But exercise, movement is incredibly important. You got to get yourself in shape. You got to get yourself healthy. And it doesn't mean you have to waste money on a gym membership, people. It can be done simply at home. I've never had a gym membership. I always have done all my workouts at home. I used to walk around this dance room. I used to put in several miles just walking and crocheting even at the same time. Walk, 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 and I'd count it off. I figured out how many laps it took to make a mile, and I'd go the other way. And you can find a way that works for you that doesn't have to cost money, especially if it can be something like you're getting a project done at the same time. And if you're a homesteader and you've got all these farm animals, which we don't have yet, you'll know that just getting out there and taking care of that, you probably don't need any more exercise, because that's going to do it for you right there. Shoveling horse manure for me is what I've been doing lately, and that's great. I love it. My forearms are really getting a good workout. That's, one part right here. It doesn't get worked out as much doing certain other things that I do. Making homemade bread. I don't care what it is. You can find ways to move more and get something done at the same time, and it's going to be much better for you. Okay, now I really will stop here. So I hope that helps. Please take it for what it is and do your own research, do your own research, do your own research. Thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.